Why may Mikel Arteta and Edu struggle to sign players this summer? It's a question that's posed to me, and it's something that I haven't really thought about. Perhaps you guys have or haven't. The reason I'm doing this video is because I feel like there's probably one of the hardest windows so far for Arsenal. And people might think, why is that? We've been in the title race for 2 years. People are starting to look at Arsenal again now. They're starting to see it as perhaps a tempting place to go. The pulling power's there again. People like the age of the players surrounding them. They might like the fact that we're competing and pretty much there when it comes to title race challenge, pretty much there when it comes to competing with Champions League football again. And it would be a very, very good move for players in the market. And as much as I agree with all of that, I can't help but think that the players that we're trying to sign, other than really two positions in the starting 11, everybody's going to be competing with each other. So a couple of seasons ago, it was easy for Mikel Arteta and Edu to select the players they wanted and be able to secure them with the kind of promise, I suppose, that they're going to play first team football. Where I think it's different now is that first team football at Arsenal is not a given. And that if you look at some of the other options for players who are available on the market at the moment, they might prefer to go and play first team football at Spurs. They might be promised first team football at teams such as Manchester United, Liverpool, or Chelsea. And those options might be maybe preferred to some players out there. Now, Arsenal, don't get me wrong, are a massive club. The pulling power is there. Mikel Arteta and Edu can sell the project and sell the dream. And I'm not saying that anybody would rather now go and play for a team smaller than Arsenal or not competing at the same level at Arsenal because of first team football. But I think it will definitely be taken into consideration when a player is considering their next move. I think that Mikel Arteta and Edu have definitely got transfer targets this summer. That's not the problem. I don't think they're going to struggle to look at targets. I don't think they're going to have any kind of worries about who should be go for and what positions should be strengthened. But I think the positions that we're trying to strengthen aren't going to be guaranteed first team places. Now, let's take the goalkeeper, for example. We've just heard that David Raya has signed, which is good news to some Arsenal fans. What does that mean for Aaron Ramsdale? What does it mean for the backup goalkeeper? Well, what it means is that Aaron Ramsdale does want to play first team football, and that if there's interest in the region of around about 25 to 30 million, I think he'll probably go. What that then means is we have to then replace that goalkeeper with somebody who's a backup. And I think that's why Arsenal in the past have gone for a backup goalkeeper in the ilk of a Matt Turner, a Runnison, a Matt Ryan, because they're number twos. And sometimes it's probably, I would say, one of the hardest positions to sign in a transfer window. So a goalkeeper is going to be an interesting one. Do we go for a number one goalkeeper like a Diogo Costa that we saw last night was fantastic? Or do we go for the David Raya as number one and go and bring in a backup goalkeeper? I've always said that I wanted an experienced goalkeeper to come in at backup. But also when I look at it, it's probably one of the hardest positions to sign. So that's not going to be an easy signing for Arteta or Edu to look at. Then you look at the scenario at centre-back. A lot of people are saying that there's potential for need for a fullback or a centre-back to come in. I think what they're looking at is a versatile defender, but they're not guaranteed first-team football. Now, if you look at Calafiori that we're linked with over at Bologna, we actually signed Tomiyasu similarly from Bologna, and he was a versatile centre-back and right-back and left-back. And I think that Calafiori is kind of similar from what we hear, but more of a centre-half, 22 years old, similar age to what Tomiyasu was when we signed him. I think he'll be probably more than what Tomiyasu was, looking at 25 to 30 million pounds mark. But when I look at it, I feel like that's going to be a player that could probably be tempted elsewhere with first-team football. Juventus or other teams in Italy will probably be interested, and they'll definitely play him in first team. When you look at what Manchester United or Chelsea could offer, it's probably more first team football than Arsenal because nobody's breaking up the partnership of Gabriel and Saliba. So again, the defence is actually quite a hard place or department to strengthen in this window because whoever's coming in is probably going to have to fight from the bench and try to mould themselves into the first team. And breaking up a partnership that I think is probably the best in the league and if not in Europe is going to be really, really tricky for Gabriel and Saliba and the form that they're in and the partnership that they formed. I think if we was to go and sign a centre-back, whether it be a Branthwaite or a Mark Guehi or Calafiori or somebody that we think would come in and want first-team football, we can't guarantee them that. Whereas somebody, let's say like Liverpool, might be able to even more than Arsenal. Now, I'm a big fan of the partnership of Van Dijk and Konaté, but let's be real. They could actually force their way in there because Van Dijk's not getting any younger and Konaté's had some injury problems. So they might look at those other options and think, yeah, Manchester United, they've just got rid of Varane. I could go there and be a first choice. So I think that's why Arsenal may struggle this summer with the positions that they want to strengthen. Now, when you're coming into the first team, I think if we look at the number 9 position and maybe the left 8 position, I think it's fair to say that there definitely is going to be strong interest from Arsenal, but also players are going to look at Arsenal and think, yeah, there's a position for me there. But when you look at trying to get cover for Saliba and Gabriel, cover for a goalkeeper, and of course the next position we'll come on to, which is cover for Bukayo Saka, I think it's going to be really hard. You might be able to tempt Pedro Neto and Eze with a move to Arsenal, but are they going to be first choice? Because when they have that first discussion with Mikel Arteta and Edu, they're going to have the question, what is my role here? And let's be real, the brutal truth is their role is to cover for Saka when he needs a rest or when he's injured. And some players don't want that. Now, don't get me wrong, there's other options where you can look at and say, I would rather go to Manchester United or Chelsea now because it's first team and I like the way they're going. That's fine by me. They might look at Liverpool and think, yeah, Salah's not getting any younger and his contract's coming to an end. I'd like to go over there. But when you look at Arsenal, there is actually some players that do want that competition for places. It keeps them on their toes, it gives them a challenge, and it allows them to mold themselves into being part of a squad that could go on to be competitive and win trophies. And that's where we're at right now. We should be getting across the line this coming season. And the players that we're adding should be a benefit to that and should be able to encourage us or persuade us to move forward to that next step and give us the strength and depth that's needed to compete with the likes of Man City. Because they've been able to attract players like Akanji, who wasn't guaranteed first-team football, but has forced his way in. Nathan Ake, likewise. Jack Grealish, to be fair, when he came for 100 million, he wasn't just given a role in the team. He had to fight for his place there. Bernardo Silva, likewise. These players, when they came to Man City, they were coming when there was the likes of Kevin De Bruyne. They were coming when there was the likes of Sergio Aguero, when there was the likes of Bernardo already there. Rodri coming into that role. Players are still going there at Manchester City. They're not saying, I don't want to sit on your bench. They know they're going to win trophies and be successful there. And that's what we now, I think, have to get to the next level to try to achieve and try to build. Because we're in a scenario right now, Arsenal, where we haven't got across the line. But I don't think anybody is looking at Arsenal thinking, don't go there because they don't win anything. I think people are looking at Arsenal thinking, this is a very interesting project. Look at what they're building there. Now, if they were going and buying in players that are win now players, I think we might be in a scenario where we might think, yeah, do you know what? We are in a situation where we don't actually get across the line. We don't really have players that are here for the future. We're looking at the complete opposite of that. We're looking at players that aren't just ready to win now, because I think some of them are, but I think also they're ready to be able to compete over the next 5 to 6 years. And I think that players, when they get to the ages of 23, 24, like some of our lot are at, they want to be having the most successful period in the next 5 to 10 years, because they're going to get to the retirement age and think, right, we look back now, why did I stay there for 8 years? We didn't win anything. I don't think Arsenal want to be looking back at that. And I think that we need to be adding that quality to that. We need to be adding that strength in depth. And I think there's definitely a question to be asked about how difficult this summer is going to be for Arsenal. I don't think there's any doubt that we'll spend money. I don't think there's any doubt that we'll get a forward in. And I don't think there's any doubt that we'll get a midfielder in. But if I was to ask you right now, who are the absolute dead certs in this Arsenal first 11 that aren't being removed, whatever? I think there's probably, let me count in my head, 1, 2, 3. I think there's 4 positions that people could definitely say is up for grabs. I think it's the goalkeeper. I think it's the left back. I think it's the left 8. And I think it's the centre forward. Now, people might think, yeah, we got Raya, we got Timber, we've got Rice and Partey, and we've got Havertz and Jesus. You're absolutely right. But how many of the players in the 1 to 11 at Arsenal would you say are one of the best in the league? I think it's the other 7. Ben White is one of the best right backs in the league, in my opinion. I think Gabriel and Saliba are definitely 2 of the best centre halves in the league, and definitely as a pair, I would say are 2 of the best in the league. Declan Rice, I think other than Rodri, is one of the best in the league. Martin Odegaard, I think he's one of the best creative midfielders in the league. Bukayo Saka is certainly one of the best wingers in the league. And whether or not you think Martinelli had a good season or not, he's definitely one of the best left wingers in the league. So that's 7 players that we've got there. You might want to add Timber onto that to make it 8 if you believe he's one of the best left backs in the league. We haven't yet to see that yet. But my point is, if you was to add a midfielder and a striker that you think, oh yeah, he's one of the best in the league there, then Arsenal are starting to build what is then a fantastic squad. And if our bench that has gone from Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, Fabio Vieira, Mohamed El Neni, and Cedric is then starting to look a little bit more like Trossard, Havertz, Jesus, Tomiyasu, Emil Smith-Rowe, then you might look at it and think, do you know what? Arsenal have actually got a really good squad here. And their bench is fire. We've got impact players now. Trossard, if he doesn't start, comes on from the bench. If he does start, it's Martinelli coming on from the bench. Tomiyasu can come in and do a lot of things in terms of the versatility in defence to shore us up. You've still got Jorginho and potentially Partey there that can go on the bench and come on with their experience. Zinchenko, if he does stay, can give us a different option in terms of an invert. And also, when you've got an understanding of the attacking midfielders that we might look at, or maybe one of the wingers, maybe we bring an Eze in, maybe we bring a Pedro Neto in, they're coming off the bench instead of Reece Nelson. So I'm really, really interested in this summer. Now, as much as I've titled this that I think we might struggle, they might prove me wrong. And I don't mean that we'll struggle to get anybody in. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I think the positions that we need and the player profile that we need and the drop-off or the cover that we need in players, it's going to be very hard to tempt some of those players that we want to see to come in and sit on the bench. And that's why I wanted to do this video, because I think we need to be realistic about who we're going to be bringing in and what their role is at Arsenal. I think there's definitely a role to play within the squad. And I want to be bringing in the likes of Pedro Neto, the likes of Eze, the likes of Victor Gyökeres. I'd love to see Yusuf Fofana come into the mix. I'd love to see us go for Joshua Kimmich. I'd love to see Calafiori come in because he's the one that everybody's talking about. And I'd love us to go and get a goalkeeper that we look at and go, wow, this is great now. We've got superb options there. But don't be surprised if it's quite difficult for us to bring some of those names in that we all want to go, wow. I just think we have to be realistic about where we are. And we need to get to that squad. And I think the last time we won the league, the Invincible squad, people forget the squad players that did unbelievable things for us that year. People forget, God rest his soul, Jose Antonio Reyes, Kanu, Wiltord. The fact that Van Persie and Fabregas, during the 49 games unbeaten, were actually a part of the squad back then that year. Ray Parlour, Edu, believe it or not, was a massive part of that season. We even had the players at the back that you forget, like Clichy and Pascal Sigan, that actually had a big part of it. And Martin Keown was still there. So these players were all on the bench, and you thought, it's a shame Freddie's got a knock, but we're bringing on Ray Parlour. It's a shame that Pires has got a knock, we're bringing on Reyes. Henry, he needs a rest, he can't play all the games, let's bring in Wiltord or Kanu. And they were scoring goals. We had youngsters coming through like Fabregas and Van Persie. And if you remember Jeremy Ali Adier, you remember Quincy Owusu-Abe, we had Arturo Lupili at the time. They were all coming through. David Bentley, Jermaine Pennant. They were all players that were coming through at the time. And I think we're at that stage now where our David Bentleys and our Jermaine Pennants at this time, and now the Ethan Wineries and the Lewis Skellys, we've actually need to go and buy our Kanus and Wiltords now. And if those Kanus and Wiltords turn into Havertz and Jesus, could we go and buy another striker? Absolutely fine by me. And that's my point I'm making. And I want that to come across because I do feel that we're in one of the most important parts of Arsenal's rebuild. And people all laugh at that. And I've been guilty of saying phase 4, what the hell? Phase 5, what the hell? But we are in a rebuild, and we have been in a rebuild. And I think what's important to remember is the bench that we had last season, I didn't think was too different to the bench we had the previous season before. And I think that's potentially what let us down. 2 years in a row now, we've been left short. I can't see us left short again. And I need that bench to look good. Now, it's understandable that we're going to have to look at player sales. We're going to have to look at potentially offers for Smith Rowe. We might have to look at Thomas Partey to Saudi. We might have to look at Fabio Vieira and his future. We might have to sell Reece Nelson and Eddie and say, do you know what, 100% profit from the youth academy. Let's go do it. We might have to consider a bid if it comes in for one of our players. And are Arsenal going to get to the stage where we might have to look at a player and think, right, really like you, but we cannot turn this down because this is going to give us another opportunity to go and sign this person. And people will laugh, but Anelka was incredible, but we sold him. Petit and Overmars were outstanding. They just won a double. We sold them to Barcelona. Who's to say we don't go and sell Martinelli for 90 million? Who's to say we don't go and sell one of our biggest prospects, Ethan Winery or Emil Smith-Rowe, for a hell of a lot of money? Like there's definitely in the past been players that we've gone, I don't want to lose you, but we've had to and we've grown from it. If Anelka doesn't leave, we don't get Henry and Pires. That's the sort of way that we're looking at it. That's where you look back now and you think at the time I was like, why are we selling Anelka to Real Madrid? He's going to be the best player in the world. Heaven forbid knows that we get Thierry Henry and he's absolutely outclassed Nicolas Anelka in every area in terms of what he did at Arsenal. Sometimes the grass is greener, so to speak, or isn't always greener, but definitely is in some terms. So that's where we're at. And I need to look at that and believe that we're going to have an opportunity for us to actually go and have a good summer. But don't be surprised to be realistic enough to think that actually it's quite hard to go and get a goalkeeper that knows he's going to be back up. It's quite difficult to know that a defender's coming in, but they ain't breaking up Gabriel or Saliba. It's quite difficult that if an attacking midfielder was to come in or a winger, that Erdogan and Saka are there. And they're not stupid. They know they're good players. They know they're going to have to work hard to get into that side. So other than the striker and the left 8 position at Arsenal, I think all of the other first teamers are pretty much there. So that's my thoughts. That's what I wanted to share with you. And I'd love to know your thoughts. Share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what your dream transfer window would be in the comments. I'll get back to you. Look at how many comments you've got and try to read as many as I can. Please make sure you do me a favor and like this video, guys. I'm going to be putting out a hell of a lot more content for you now, so it's going to be good. So like and subscribe if you are new, and make sure you hit the notification bell so you know that when we are on. We will see you next time. Take it easy, and as always,